When someone asks, what are the main themes that carry through Luke Acts, you're also at the same time asking the question, what are some of the main themes that feed into the rest of the New Testament? And certainly one of those key themes is the idea of who Jesus is. And Luke Acts tells the story of Jesus from the earth up. It starts with categories that we're used to and slowly but surely works through to the categories that really matter to Luke. So we start off with Jesus as the messianic promise figure who acts like a prophet and teaches like a prophet. And eventually we see that he's the Messiah, but he's not the kind of Messiah that people intend. He actually is Messiah who first will suffer and then deliver the glorification and promise that he has come to bring. And then eventually he becomes the Lord. In fact, in Acts chapter 2, in Pentecost, when he ascends to the right hand of God, the key line says, therefore let Israel know that God has made this Jesus whom you crucified both Lord and Christ. In the Greek, Lord and Christ are in the emphatic position. And so Lord becomes the key title. And the way the Christology underwrites both the books is the idea of because Jesus is Lord of all, the gospel can go to all. So that certainly is one of the main themes that carries through Luke Acts. A second key theme that carries through Luke Acts is the idea, and this Messiah brings new life to God's people by bringing them the Spirit of God that will indwell them. This promise starts with John the Baptist when the crowd is speculating, could John be the Messiah? And he answers, no, not me. I only baptize with water. One's coming later who will baptize with the Spirit and fire, which is a nice way of saying that if you are baptized by the Messiah, one, you can know the Messiah has come because the Spirit has come, and you can know the new era has come because the Messiah represents the arrival of the new Spirit. That picture gets picked up in Luke 24:49 when Jesus tells the disciples after he's raised, go to Jerusalem and wait to be clothed with power from on high. And then in Acts 1, he again reiterates that promise, referring to the Spirit of God directly. And then in Acts 2, that promise arrives with the Spirit of God coming into God's people as a sign that not only Jesus has been vindicated, but that the benefits of salvation have begun to be distributed to those who are his. And then we see the Spirit of God guide the people of God in the midst of persecution and rejection as they take the message out into the world. So that certainly is a second major theme of Luke Acts. The third major theme of Luke Acts is the place where all this lands. And that is in the reconciliation of people who were estranged from one another and brought into one community. So the message eventually goes out into all the world, but the picture is Jews and Gentiles, a formerly estranged group, totally separated. In fact, not 200 years before, in the Maccabean War, the Gentiles had tried to remove the Jews from the face of the earth and had persecuted them severely and tried to wipe out their separate identity. And now God says, I'm going to reconcile you two to one another and to me through Jesus Christ in a triangle that links them together as family, not only vertically in relationship to God, but horizontally in relationship to one another. And so Luke asks this question, God has adopted us as his children and made us family. The question is, have we adopted one another? And in the midst of doing that, Luke's making one final point, which is, it may look like Christianity is the new boy on the block, and in the ancient world, to be a new religion on the block was not to commend it. What gave religion value is that it was time-tested. And so Luke Acts is arguing as it makes these arguments for these various themes that I've talked about. This is rooted in promises that come out of the Old Testament that go all the way back to Abraham. What looks new is actually quite old, quite old, and time-tested. And God's promises stand behind it. And God's promises are now being realized to restore people to one another and to him so the world can be a different place.